And well, let's go straight over to my first guest for the first hour. It is, of course, Talk's brilliant international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
Good evening, Kev. Well, I'm just finished listening to Shabana Mahmood, or as you call her, Shabs, and leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch. And it was pretty interesting, I must say. I know we're both going to have strong views on that one.
Well, yeah, I mean, before we get to Shabana's intentions, her speech, I mean, all of which I'm in favour of, I just think that, like so many issues with this Labour government, when she and her plans collide with reality, they just won't happen. Underpinning what I think is her inevitable failure in this endeavour is her refusal, along with Keir Starmer, Richard Hermer, or half the cabinet, nearly everyone in Labour, her refusal to countenance even thinking about leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. If we don't leave the ECHR, then we don't make our own sovereign decisions. In the end, our sovereign decisions can be superseded by a foreign court, and therefore none of this can happen as things stand. But before we discuss the actual nuts and bolts of what's been happening over the weekend and today with Shabana Mahmood, she gave a lot of interviews over the weekend as well to sort of soften the way for this big announcement today in the Commons. I want to take you back to something that you brought into this show a couple of months ago. I also want to talk about Darren Jones, the Prime Minister's private secretary, parliamentary secretary, also an MP, of course. And I want to talk about the Deputy Leader of the Green Party, Rachel Millward. All of these people, or particularly Jones and Millward, are symptomatic of this type of person in Parliament, virtue signalling, left-wing, who refuse to confront the truth about who's breaking into our country. So Darren Jones, we'll play that in a minute. He said, oh, you know, it's all women and mothers, babies, children. No, it's not, Darren. 75% of them are young men, most of them conning their way into the country, pretending they're escaping war and torture, neither of which are happening in France. So what are they talking about? And then you get Rachel Millward. We'll play you some tape in a minute of her saying, the thing about all these migrants is they're all surgeons and lawyers and engineers. So these people just delude themselves and they create a false truth in order to sort of facilitate their ideology about opening our borders to these wonderful people who are just trying to get ahead in life, really valuable members of society. Oh yeah, really? Yeah. We're looking at the crime rate soaring all over the country right now, so thanks for that. But first of all, thanks to you, let's remind ourselves, 10 years ago this was, Shabana Mahmood, when she was a backbench left-wing Labour MP, heading for the Greek island of Lesbos, to greet all these illegal migrants pouring in from the Middle East and sub-Saharan Africa through Libya, pouring into Greece, into Europe. Shabana's there handing out food parcels. Have a look at this.
Lesbos, where boats have been coming in all day. Around 30 boats have arrived already today. There's a couple of charitable organisations on the ground here, one of whom is offering immediate medical assistance. Many of the people who are coming off are obviously very cold, very wet, and some are in shock. And there's also another organisation here who are offering food and water to the people coming off the boats before they make their way up, a little way up the road from here to a camp where they can start the processing registration process.
When there are babies and children put into that position by human trafficking gangs who are coming across in the channel with skin burns from the oil from those boats mixing with the salt seawater, I would ask any of you to look at those babies and children and say, go back where you came from. It is right that we are there to help them. It is right that we are a country that respects our human rights obligations, but it is also right that we should have a border that is functioning and an immigration system that is functioning. It was left out of control by the last government.
You know they're coming from
and we're
France,
going to go.
right? You know they're coming from
take control of it again. It's right that we take a humanitarian response for those people who are put in those positions, and as the government's policy states, dealing with the criminal gangs who are exploiting vulnerable children to use that route, and then tackling the people who should not be using it and making sure that they're not staying in this country. You can do both of those things without politicising it in the way that you do.
Zia.
Well, in my previous answer, I made the case that this government prioritises foreign citizens over citizens of the United Kingdom. After that testimony, I can rest my case.
How do you rest that case?
So number one, well, you were just talking about. So number one, the vast majority of the people making the journey from France by small boat are fighting age, military age males, not women and children. That's the first point. I don't know if the BBC real-time fact-checkers are working this evening or not. They seem to be when I speak, but let's say that's the first point. The second point I would make is that, we're talking about asylum hotels, and Rachel Reeves saying we're going to shut down asylum hotels. There was a report today that this Labour...
OK, so that was Sharon Jones, I like that. Darren Jones, a couple of months ago on Question Time, stating quite clearly to the nation, the vast majority of these people come from mothers and women and babies and children. It's just not true. The 75% of them, sometimes more, in the past it's been more, are young men of what we call military age. But the more you look at the crime lists, the crime tally, you start to think, well, these are young men of sexually active age, between the age of 17 and 34, loads of them. And they're mostly grifters. They're mostly conning their way into the country, saying, I'm escaping war and torture. They're not. No, they're not. Finally, maybe the most absurd example of this syndrome is Rachel Millward. She is the deputy leader of the Green Party, so you probably expect this kind of lunacy from her. But this is particularly ridiculous. She seems to think, Darren says they're all babies, mothers, women and children. And Rachel Millward takes issue with that. She thinks they're all surgeons, lawyers and engineers. Take it away, Rachel.
I'm here outside the training camp where the Home Office has decided to temporarily house 540 asylum seekers. What struck me most, actually, from this first site visit is the stories from the Home Office staff of the asylum seekers in other sites. They're talking about surgeons and doctors and lawyers, people who come from Eritrea or Afghanistan or all kinds of different places, who really should have the right to work, to contribute to our society, to be better integrated for their own well-being and for our communities, to pay tax, to be able to rent their own accommodation, to be able to get on with building their lives. We need to give asylum seekers the right to work. These camps are a political decision. We don't have to do it this way.
My second question is actually directly to you, Rachel. It does actually go to you as well, James. You did a video the other day, Rachel, saying that all of these people, doctors and engineers and surgeons that are coming here, and we should give them the right to work. Now, firstly, engineers, doctors and surgeons do not come from France on a dinghy and throw their medical certificate overboard. It's very clear to me that you really don't understand the small boat crisis. So therefore, I'm going to say, why don't you resign, both of you, and make way for someone who understands the crisis? It's not a joke, Rachel. I'm serious. You do not have the capabilities to do this. You don't understand the small boat crisis. Step down, both of you, and let someone else take lead and actually get us what we need and represent this community, because you don't.
Well, there you are, Isabel. There's a compendium of where I think we've got this real problem. So many people in the body politic seek to delude themselves, seek to pretend truths about this migrant crisis that don't exist. They're all surgeons, they're lawyers, they're engineers, they're mothers, they're babies, they're children. These are people. Darren Jones is one of the most powerful people in the country. He is the right-hand man of the Prime Minister, possible future Chancellor of the Exchequer. He thinks it's all babies, women and children. Rachel Millward thinks it's lawyers, surgeons and engineers and doctors. It is this virtue signalling delusion. And, you know, Shabana Mahmood, you know, over in Greece handing out food parcels. You know, she's of the same mindset, I fear. That's our problem. These people in Westminster, these out-of-touch people in Westminster, prefer to tell lies to themselves about what's going on than to confront the truth. And the truth is that thousands and thousands and thousands of young, undocumented men about whom we know nothing are ploughing across the channel day in, day out to be allowed in, no questions asked. That is the nature of the problem.
Well, another clip actually emerged of Shabana Mahmood today. It's been circulating from the years when she was a backbencher, in which she was calling for an amnesty for all illegal immigrants in the UK. So I actually do think she is committed to trying to tackle the problem a bit now she's Home Secretary, because she's actually a pretty smart woman. And even she can see that this cannot go on as it is, and that it will bring her government down. But I mean, she's a pretty late convert to the cause. And, you know, I would invite all these politicians, Darren Jones and Rachel Maskell and the deputy leader of the Green Party, and indeed the leader of the Green Party, I'd invite them to spend just a couple of days in Calais or Dunkirk. And if they can find me a surgeon, then I'm happy to eat humble pie. Good luck with that, guys. You will struggle to find migrants that speak a word of English there, never mind being highly educated surgeons. These are young men, very, very, very poor. I mean, they can barely carry more than they're wearing. These are young men in ragged clothes. How they pay for their fare, well, we'll come to that on another occasion. These are not highly qualified, university educated individuals who are all set to be able to make a positive contribution. I'm sorry, they just aren't.
And it is just simply not the case that the majority of them are women, babies, mothers and children. The percentage of women, babies, mothers and children is very small. Essentially, we're talking about young men of military age, between the ages 17, 34, who all come over and they lie their way into the country, and for some reason we put up with it. Well, listen, let's go to break now, and we'll talk more about Shabana's actual new plans when we come back, and I think the inevitable roadblock she's going to hit. I mean, I don't mind her plans. Her ideas, I think, are solid, sound and sensible. But they won't happen because she's not a member of a solid, sound and sensible party. And she'll never get this through Parliament. It's just not going to happen. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned, folks. Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor Isabel Oakeshott. We're talking about Shabana Mahmood and the Home Secretary and her hardline plans to solve the migrant crisis. On that basis, Isabel, on a scale of 1 to 10, what chance would you give Shabana Mahmood of getting through those left-wing be kind, virtue signalling Labour backbenchers? The proposal that upon arrival we Brits take all the jewellery and valuables from these migrants in order to go some way towards paying for their accommodation. Do you think that the Labour left-wing backbenchers will vote for that?
I mean, I don't think they'll vote for very much.
They won't vote for any of it, will they?
The question is how much of it actually requires what's called primary legislation, whether there are things that can be pushed through without actually having the kind of votes that she's not going to enjoy having to fight to get. I think she'll get the support of the Conservatives. She'll get the support of Reform, even though they've only got a few MPs. That's quite important, kind of rhetorical support anyway. But you know, she's going to have a fight on her hands. You know, they've already been coming out of the woodwork long before she actually stepped up in front of Parliament today to describe her proposals as, in the case of Stella Creasy, the Labour MP for Walthamstow, to whom I'm awarding the early prize for piety. She described these proposals as performative cruelty. I mean, I really thought that was a bit strange coming from.
It's quite a good phrase, but I think it's a little unfair. But the point is, it does sum up, though, exactly why none of this is going to get through. I mean, you know, she's proposing that migrants, asylum seekers, when they arrive, lose their automatic right to welfare payments, because now, as things stand, absurdly, we give them 50 quid a week as soon as they turn up. And those welfare payments will often go up if they manage to get kids here or anything like that. So she's proposing the removal of that. The Labour backbenchers will not vote for that. And by the way, in that proposal, this is the funniest line in Shabana's hardline measures. It literally says this: asylum seekers will not be paid welfare unless they need it. It's good, isn't it?
It's great to see the acknowledgement that that some are currently being paid it, even though they don't need it. But I think there's a few things in that set of proposals from today that actually may make the situation quite a lot worse. So, for example, she's talking about creating new legal safe routes. I mean, for how many years have we been hearing lefties going on about the need for safe legal routes? I mean, those already exist. It is called doing things properly, getting on a plane, for example, not getting in a small boat. And whenever there is some kind of global crisis, you know, some kind of war that we have a stake in, and even those that we don't. We are always creating safe legal routes, just as happened for Ukraine, where very, very fast-track visas were issued, just as happened for Hong Kong, just as happened for certain very deserving cases from Afghanistan. We now have a load of less deserving cases coming over in the so-called irregular, non-legal routes. So I am worried about her proposal to create legal routes. I'm also worried about all these extra provisions for studying for people from certain categories. I don't know whether you listened on that. Yeah. New route for displaced students to stay here. Well, you know, welcome world. There's an awful lot of displaced people, or people that call themselves displaced. I'm feeling pretty displaced myself at this point from my own country, which can sometimes feel like a whole other world. So I feel that certain things will be exploited in a way that actually backfires. But I will give her credit, I must say, for really going for it today. I mean, I've just watched a clip of her dealing with an opposition politician, and, you know, she really kind of, actually using some quite profane language, said, I'm going to paraphrase here, you know, sort of said, look, those of you on the other side of the argument here, that is the left, claiming that there's nothing to see here, no big problem, this is all some kind of fiction from the far right, have got to get real. You've got to represent your constituents. There is a massive problem, she said repeatedly. Yeah. The system is broken. Now, I haven't heard a Home Secretary speak like that for, well, really ever, actually, for whatever the Tories, you know, thought that they were being tough. I did find that language quite compelling.
Yeah, and she gave interviews over the weekend saying, quite rightly, that, you know, the migration issue, the migrant crisis, was tearing this nation apart. So, you know, I mean, I agree with you. She's an intelligent woman. She's worked it all out, but she is hamstrung. She is shackled. She's in a straitjacket because she's a member of the Labour Party, and like all those other losers in the Labour Party, primarily, above everything else, she believes in human rights, and therefore she will not leave the European Convention on Human Rights, and therefore nothing she says means anything, because we can't make her own sovereign decisions. In the end, Britain's sovereign decisions will be made by a foreign court in Strasbourg. So if you don't leave the ECHR, it won't automatically solve the migrant crisis, but it is the essential foundation stone, the essential starting block. If you don't do that, you cannot achieve anything. Therein lies the problem. And she said I mean, she's quite a good performer, you know, and this will make a few headlines. It'll make Labour look as if they're trying to do something for the next couple of days until everybody realises none of this stuff will actually happen. But she was interviewed by Trevor Phillips on Sky News over the weekend, one of Sky News' only watchable programmes. And Trevor put it to her. He said this one in, one out scheme. You know, and then he quoted all the ridiculous statistics and said, well, he said, isn't the idea that it's supposed to sort of reduce the number of migrants that are coming into the country is a bit deterrent? He said it's clearly not doing that. It hasn't reduced the number of migrants coming into the country. So what are you going to do about it? And she said, I don't accept that. She doesn't accept that the one in, one out scheme is not totally ineffective, because it is totally ineffective. And she actually contended that it is reducing the number of migrants coming into the country. So if she's going to be like that, her heart can be in the right place, but it's just not going to work. And she clearly is also part of Labour's delusional brigade.
I agree. It's very disappointing that she didn't acknowledge that, because I really don't know anyone who could possibly mount a credible argument that it's working. And, you know, other parts of her proposals, we know they're doomed before they even begin. You know, Kemi Badenoch actually did quite a good job dissecting it all. And one of the things that our Shabs proposes to do is mosey on down to the to the Council of Europe reform meetings and see if she can persuade people on the Council of Europe to actually change some of the sort of ECHR linked provisions. So she mentioned about how we can't send some people back to certain countries on the grounds that their prison cells are too small. And she proposes to see if she can get that changed. But as Kemi Badenoch pointed out, people have asked nicely before. Other countries have tried this and they've been rejected. So
Shabana Mahmood is
anytime soon.
Yeah, Shabana Mahmood is a lawyer. She should know this. What she's saying is we should lobby to change the way the ECHR works, the European Convention on Human Rights works, particularly with a view to Articles 3 and 8. These are A, the right to a family life, and B, the right to avoid persecution or ill treatment if returned to your country. She says, we're going to get rid of those clauses. Well, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. You won't be able to do that. So you think, well, why are you so desperate to remain a member of this club that was formed in 1951 by us, actually, when the easiest thing to do would just be to leave it. We can make our own human rights bill. It's ridiculous. So there's that as well. And you have to also, just before we go to break, Isabel, you have to remember, why is she having to make this sort of great broadside of announcements? Why is she trying to grab the headlines saying, look at us, we're doing something, we're doing something? Because smash the gangs simply did not work. One in, one out is not working. Everything this government has tried to do has failed. So her having to make these statements today is because everything else Keir Starmer and his crew have tried to do has completely failed. In fact, it's been farcically useless. That's why we're where we're at today, because Labour just desperately scrabbles from one desperate position to the next. We're at the latest here. Nothing's going to happen unless she leaves the ECHR, and she's not going to do that. I don't want to be depressing about it, and I agree with you. I think, for a Labour cabinet minister, she's probably one of our better ones, but she won't take that big step and leave the ECHR, so none of this is going to work. Meanwhile, all of this makes Keir Starmer's position even weaker than it already was. We'll talk about his struggle to survive after this break. Stay tuned, folks. Welcome back. Let's talk about Keir Starmer. The vultures are circling. So many MPs jockeying for position to take over from Keir Starmer, whose days are numbered. He will go If not sooner, he will go later. So a lot of people say he won't survive until Christmas. I think he probably will. I think they'll wait until the local elections in May, when Labour will get thrashed embarrassingly, and then they'll kick him out and bring someone else in. But it's only a matter of time. You know, I could well be proved to be wrong. It could be by Christmas, because this guy is hopeless. We learned that West Streeting, one of the runners and riders, it's like the Grand National, the race to get to number 10. So many people have got their eyes on the prize of being Prime Minister. West Streeting, the Health Secretary, of course, absolutely outrageous to suggest he was in any way being treacherous to the Prime Minister last week. Absolutely disgraceful. What a joke. Of course he is. He wants the job. But we're learning today that, see, I mean, if we got West Streeting, I think West Streeting is overrated, but he's better than most of them, and he'll certainly be better than some of the other contenders. I think the danger, Keir Starmer will go, but the danger here is he will leave a vacuum into which Labour's left-wing instincts will pour. The majority of people in the Labour Party tend to favour their favourite cabinet minister, unbelievably, is Ed Miliband, by a mile. Their second favourite, Angela Rayner. Angela Rayner circling now, you know, as if she's not in disgrace. Almost forgotten about didn't pay her stamp duty. Almost forgotten that she left shamed and disgraced. She's now circling. She fancies the top job. And people have pointed out it's emerged because she's put herself into pole position, saying, it's Angela, I'm coming back. I'm going to get that. I'm going to get number 10. I'm going to be the Prime Minister. Well, it turns out she hasn't paid back that £40,000 stamp duty that she avoided paying. So surely her starting point should be to make good her debt to the Exchequer before she wants to be the Prime Minister of this country. Might be a thought.
Or maybe being Prime Minister of the country is her plan for paying back the money, because she'd have an immediate and quite substantial salary
increase, yeah.
So that, I mean, it might be the only way out for her at this point, though I rather think that someone will, you know, somebody will pony up the cash for her one way or another, and she'll be able to clean that slate. I agree with you that I think the party will choose someone that's to the left of Starmer, which is a pretty chilling thought. And actually that kind of loops back to the discussion we were having earlier. I don't think Keir Starmer's got much longer than May to survive. And so if this legislation on anti-immigration legislation is going to come in under another Prime Minister, then that's going to create even more problems. It may well be that in the beauty contest, in the competition to out-left each other, the new leadership contenders promise to unravel many of Shabana's proposals.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this will crystallise the divide in the Labour Party. I mean, there is a divide. There's the moderates, the more reasonable. Shabana Mahmood is moderate and more reasonable than most of them. I think West Streeting is as well. But these people are on the wrong side of Labour history, because the majority of people in the Labour Party, they're still weeping buckets of tears because Jeremy Corbyn's not in the party anymore. Their best substitute for Jeremy is Ed Miliband. They love Ed Miliband. They love Angela Rayner. They really love the fact that Lucy Powell is now deputy party leader, pulling all the strings from the left in the background. So the direction of travel, Starmer's gone. He'll either be gone by Christmas or he'll be gone straight after May. There's no doubt about that. When he does go, I mean, it's a bit careful what you wish for. Things will become worse because the party will lurch seriously leftwards, if you can even imagine that. The idea of Ed Miliband running this country, I don't know about you, Isabel, but it sends a shiver of horror down my spine.
Well, I mean, we very nearly had it all those years ago when he stabbed his brother in the back and ended up becoming Labour leader, didn't he? I mean, it feels like an eons ago now. But, you know, we saw the best of his abilities then, and I don't think he's gone on to impress any more than he ever did all those years ago. And we can look forward to, you know, yet more of our green and pleasant land being covered in pylons and solar panels and other nutty, bonkers net zero obsessed stuff that he dreams about tonight.
Yeah, it's frightening. So I do want Starmer to go because he deserves it. I think incompetence should be paid for. Accountability, so little accountability in this country. If you do your job badly, as he has, you should be fired. You should face the sack. So I want him to go on that basis, but I'm pretty frightened about who comes in after he goes. Because it's very unlikely to be one old Shabs today, while she put forward some reasonable proposals, undermined by her failure to leave the ECHR. But while she's putting forward those reasonable proposals, they've made her bed for her. She won't get in now. With these Labour left-wingers, she'll forever be the one who proposed taking the jewellery and valuables off migrants when they arrived at Dover. Even I was quite shocked by that. So these measures, they may have set out her stall, but it is not a stall that's going to win the battle to be our next Prime Minister. It won't be her. She will be seen as too right-wing by the rank and file.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I've never thought that, given the kind of makeup of this parliamentary party, that she would be a serious contender. I mean, the only way in which she might gather, enough support to get through to the various stages would be because actually Labour may inch up a tiny bit in the polls on the back of her sounding tough announcements. But, I really think today is probably the high point in Shabana Mahmood's crusade against illegal immigration. It's that sweet ministerial moment when you all the plaudits for your big promises before everybody has fully realised that all that noise was only ever that, just noise.
Yeah, it's just more. It's like the one in, one out scheme, Smash the Gangs. It's headline hunting. It's superior headline hunting by her. She's worked out the details. She's worked hard on this, and for that, I kind of play her a kind of reluctant compliment. But it comes always back to: are you going to leave the ECHR or not? If you're not, forget it. We're stuck. We're stuck in this mess. And, we have a human rights lawyer as Prime Minister. We have a human rights lawyer as Attorney General. They're like Tweedledee and Tweedledum, old Starmer and Hermer. You'll never get anywhere trying to get out of the ECHR. Anything that in any way even remotely looks like Britain is reducing its commitment to their God Almighty human rights is not going to get anywhere. So there's your problem. Let's go to break. When we come back, well, it's another problem, I guess, for the government, but it's more of a problem for the BBC. I want to talk about the latest developments on the Donald Trump BBC front. And I think it is quite extraordinary how many journalists, how many intelligent people are saying, the BBC has apologised. That surely should be enough. Well, if it's a newspaper, if the Sun or the Daily Mail or the Times or the Telegraph libelled someone, defamed them egregiously like Panorama did to the president, the system isn't, well, the Telegraph said sorry, that's enough, surely. That isn't the system. When a media outlet defames someone and they apologise, they also have to give them financial compensation. We've had the dismissal or the departure of the Director General and the Head of News. We've had the apology from the BBC. I'm afraid, all of you barrack room lawyers, that's called, in the wonderful world of libel, an open and shut case. Donald Trump has already won it. The idea that the BBC should be let off what all other media outlets would have to pay is ridiculous. Just because it's license fee payers' money, that's the way it is. It's ridiculous. They're going to lose this case, and they shouldn't fight it because they've already lost it. We'll talk about that next. Welcome back. Still with Talk's international editor Isabel Oakeshott. Now, Isabel, if you or I are working for a newspaper and we write a story that egregiously libels the President of the United States of America, you know, we pretend that he called for violent insurrection on January the 6th when he did nothing of the sort. If we wrote that in the newspaper, do you think people would, and he sued, do you think people would go, oh, that's not fair, that's not fair on the shareholders of the newspaper, he should just accept an apology? Doesn't go like that, does it? I am absolutely gobsmacked by all these idiots going, well, what about the licence fee payers? This isn't fair. I've heard people today saying, oh, come on, the BBC has apologised. So what?
Yeah.
So what? You know, I'm sorry for the licence fee payers, but in the end, the BBC is just another media outlet, and you are not allowed to libel people. If you tell egregious lies about people, if you twist the truth about them and make them look bad, yes, you have to apologise. You also have to massively compensate them financially. That's the way it goes. Why does the BBC feel that it should be accepted from that rule, that it should be unique in this respect? It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, if a newspaper libelled the President of the United States in that way, and knowing that the President of the United States is an extremely litigious character, I think that newspaper would be making preparations to collapse. You know, you would expect that newspaper to be thinking, unless they've got some almighty insurance, and newspapers do have types of libel insurance, they would be expected to be cleaned out. You know, this is how it is on newspapers, as you say, and on other news organisations. There is accountability, and very painful it is too for journalists that inadvertently libel people. In the case of the BBC, it wasn't inadvertent, was it? You know,
no,
often
that's the point. That's exactly it. It was deliberate. It was deliberate. They told a lie about him. People say, all these lefties go, no, he's got no reputation. You can't defame somebody like Donald Trump. He's such an awful man. He's the president of the bloody United States of America. And you said, BBC, Panorama, you said that he made a speech calling for the mob, those guys with the buffalo hats, to storm Capitol Hill. Fight, fight, fight. Calling for violent insurrection. He did nothing of the type. You cannot imagine a worse libel, and the BBC is going to have to pay. Its contention that this is not defamation is just bizarre. It's childlike. It's stupid. No wonder he's upped what was a $1 billion lawsuit to a $5 billion suit. The BBC's intransigent attitude to this is making the situation worse and worse. Now, Starmer was going to have a conversation, a phone call with Donald Trump about this, although I understand that Starmer's line, because he always wants to suck up to the president, is, oh, you're quite right, the BBC's got to get its house in order. So I don't think Starmer's going to persuade him not to pursue this lawsuit, this legal action. But the call evidently didn't happen. Here's Donald Trump talking about it on Air Force One over the weekend.
What BBC did, nobody would even think a thing like that was done. They actually changed the words coming out of my mouth. Well, we'll sue them. We'll sue them for anywhere between $1 billion and $5 billion, probably sometime next week.
So you're ready to take?
Well, I think I have to do it. I mean, they've even admitted that they cheated. I mean, not that they couldn't have not done that. They cheated. They changed the words coming out of my mouth. The people of the UK are very angry about what happened, as you can imagine, because it shows the BBC is fake news. Plus, you and I knew that for a long time, but we didn't know it was this fake.
Have you raised the issue with Sir Keir Starmer?
I have not, but I'll call him. I'm going to call him over the weekend. He actually put a call into me. He's very embarrassed by it.
Well, I think Starmer probably is embarrassed about it. I mean, by the way, Isabel, Trump has steered the BBC into the textbook way that you win a libel case. First of all, you get an apology. So if they apologise before the event, which they have, they've already said, we've made a mistake, we've done something wrong here. Yeah. Then add to that the obvious nature of the departure of the man who runs the entire organisation, the Director General Tim Davie, £547,000 a year. He had to resign over this, and so did the head of news, Deborah Turness, £431,000 a year. The fact that they quit and that the BBC has already apologised, how are they going to defend this? They've already admitted that they were wrong, that they've told a lie. They cannot defend it.
Well, under UK libel law, and I'm not a libel lawyer, but I've a fair amount of experience of this. You have to be able to prove serious harm, and that is where the BBC, in vain, hopes that it might have some kind of chance. What they're planning to argue, I believe, is that the relevant programme was not actually aired in the US, and therefore there was no serious harm and so on. I think it will be pretty easy to demonstrate serious harm on all sorts of measures. And, you know, they're bang to rights.
You cannot imagine, Isabel, a more serious libel to accuse someone of trying to cause insurrection against the government. Revolution. That is a very serious libel, and BBC saying, well, it wasn't broadcast in America. I don't know if they've heard about this newfangled thing, YouTube, or this even more newfangled thing, social media. But if I could just introduce the BBC to the 21st century, they'll realise that it was shown in America. That old defence doesn't work anymore in the new media age. So all in all, otherwise he wouldn't be able to cite an amount. If you sue someone for libel, defamation in this country, you can't demand an amount. That has to be decided by the court. But the fact he's done it under American law means he can cite an amount, and it was shown over there. They're not going to win on that basis. And when they say, well, we don't say we believe he wasn't seriously defamed, it didn't harm him. You said that a man who was at the time President of the United States called for violent revolution. In what way do you think that wasn't defamation? Do tell, because I can't work it out. It's ridiculous.
Well, the other thing that there is under libel law, I don't know about the detail of libel law in America, is that if you do something vindictively with an agenda as a journalist, that makes it even worse. It's a bit like burgling a house with a weapon. It becomes aggravated. And I think it will be quite easy for Trump's lawyers to demonstrate that the BBC has had an agenda against him. And that would make it worse.
Exactly right.